Michael Jackson was frustrated because he could not sleep. Frustrated because his doctor refused to give him a drug that he preferred, that he wanted. He did an act without his doctor's knowledge, without his doctor's permission, against his orders. He did an act that caused his own death.
As the prosecution reached a crescendo yesterday, there were fireworks in court, and Dr. Murray was quoted as saying something that was quite controversial that we can't even repeat here. And then the star witness for the defense also possibly, allegedly said something that could get him in trouble. Straight out to Alan Duke, what do you know about these controversies?
Well, first of all, right over my shoulder 24 hours ago, I was about to do a live report, and I heard Ed Chernoff, the lead defense lawyer, in a heated discussion, really, with Dr. Paul White, their anesthesiology expert, who's going to testify later. And I didn't quite know what was going on, and they were talking about not taking something personally. Won't go into all the details of what was said, but it was showing the strain on Ed Chernoff and on Dr. White. Since then, it's gotten even crazier. As you know, what happened yesterday afternoon, Dr. Murray getting somewhat upset during testimony of Dr. Schafer, and then Dr. White, according to quotes online, in fact, there is an online report quoting Dr. White saying some things about District Attorney David Walgren that we may hear about, the judge addressing in court today. It wouldn't surprise me at all. The tensions are really running high. There are no smiles on the defense faces right now, and gag orders cannot hide how they're feeling.
That astounds me. It astounds me, Eric Chase, that not only are the stakes high here, but in some cases the jury sees things like these. And I know things get emotional at trial, but when you hear that kind of behavior, if in fact there were words said to people by Dr. Murray, if in fact what Paul White, Dr. White said some things, is this the way you normally see it, or is this team out of control? Is this whole group out of control?
This kind of thing happens a lot during trials, and it's important to for us to, I hope, find out what the jury has seen and hasn't seen. For juries, perception is everything. The perception, among other things, how the defense team perceives themselves to be doing. Do they think they're in trouble? If the jury thinks the defense team thinks they're in trouble, the jury's going to think they're in trouble. So if the jury heard Chernoff arguing with Dr. White, and it was heated, and he said, don't take things personally, and the jury heard that, they might think the defense team's got a problem.
Well, I'm hoping our producers can put up the video of the two anesthesiologists who are going head-to-head again, walking down the street, because to me, this is like, I don't know if this is the most politically correct thing to say, but war of the nerds is basically how I look at it. There you go. And the thing is that Dr. Paul White, who is the one with the coffee cup, is in the courtroom and sitting close enough to the defendant where the defendant allegedly muttered something to him like, can you believe that? What a bleep about the other guy. And I'm wondering, why is this guy even in court when he could watch this all from the comfort of his hotel room on HLN? And apparently he's been cited a number of times, this defense anesthesiologist, for talking or standing up, or I mean, he's making waves in there. Why are they letting him sit there like that?
Well, it's actually very common to have opposing experts listen to each other's testimony in court, and they do that so they can directly address what the other expert has said when they testify. Now, how he's acting in court, that's a different issue. And if the jury perceives him as being unprofessional and doing things out of haste or out of emotion, they may give less credibility to his testimony.
But Dr. White is sitting directly behind the defense table, and he's passing notes to Murray. Have you ever seen that? Because I got to tell you, I haven't seen that. I've seen them in the gallery, but not right there. And some people are saying, wait, it almost looks like he's a part of the defense team.
I've done that myself. I've even had experts sit at the table, especially when you're dealing with highly technical issues. You need these experts to educate you. If Dr. Schafer says something that you're not expecting about the mathematics, as you said, Jane, and how he was able to determine the amount of propofol in his system or in his stomach or whatever it was, they may need Dr. White to educate them on what questions to ask, and that happens a lot.
Now, here's a controversy that, for all we know, could erupt when court resumes. E! Online is claiming, this is an E-Online report, that Dr. White, the defense anesthesiologist, said some things. Tells E that Deputy DA David Walgreen's treatment of the evidence has been, quote, unethical and unconscionable. Schafer's testimony has changed the way he thinks of him. White says, quote, I am going to take the high road, not the low road with him. I was his teacher when he was a medical student. The truth will come out. I mean, now, other people are saying, well, he is so close to the gallery that somebody just might have overheard these comments. Could he have violated the gag order?
If he did it with the intent of communicating it to the press or the public or even potentially jurors, then of course he violated the gag order. But I want to make this point, Jane. This actually plays into the defense hands. This has been a landslide against Dr. Murray. And I've had cases like this where what you're really trying to do is get a stick and throw it into the spokes of the bicycle as it's careening down the hill. And for the jurors, if they perceive something else is going on here, look, I think this jury wants to acquit Dr. Murray. He's an African-American who has risen to the top of his profession. Among other things, he certainly did not have criminal intent.
They want to?
Yes.
Really? Even though they've heard about the standard of care issues, failing that 17 different times, you think the jury is feeling like they want a reason to let Dr. Murray go?
Absolutely, and I've seen the situation on many occasions. When you have a sympathetic defendant, a man who clearly does not have the kind of criminal intent that somebody has when they rob a bank or sell drugs or point a gun or shoot somebody, he is not a criminal in the classic sense of how we see criminals. And so they're looking for a reason, I believe, to acquit him and let him get on with his life. And I've heard jurors say that in the past. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I think the evidence has been very strong against him, but I do think they walk into a case like this looking to acquit a person who they see as a good man.
I don't know how they do that when they see this.
Yeah, this, but I do think that this little object right here may be the key to the defense, because the prosecution's saying Dr. Murray opened this and flooded Michael Jackson's system. But what if the defense can convince the jurors that Michael Jackson opened this and flooded his own system? I don't know the mathematics of it, but I think that's their best shot, frankly.
All right.
Again, it becomes a factual question and not a medical scientific question.
All right, we'll be right back with more. Keep it right here.
You've administered it more than 10 times?
Yes.
More than 20 times?
30 days a month, roughly, every day.
Oh, so it's about the daily.
But daily, with the exception of 3 days leading up to his death.
That's that police interview that played in court with Dr. Murray. And by the way, for even more in-depth coverage of Michael Jackson, of this Michael Jackson death trial, you got to check out our blog. You're going to find tons of analysis and color from the Conrad Murray trial. Wall-to-wall coverage of this trial is all there. HLNTV.com/Michael Jackson. And you know what we're talking about today are these experts, right? Paul White on the defense side, Stephen Schafer on the prosecution side. It's the war of the nerds, as you said. And I'll tell you, here's the thing. When this trial started, they were friends. They had known each other for 25 years on similar journals, worked together. Well, here's a moment I think that changed everything. Take a look at this. This is Dr. Schafer in court saying unequivocally that there is no way Michael Jackson swallowed propofol. But notice how they react in that courtroom as you look. Take a look.
Did Dr. White suggest that Michael Jackson may have orally consumed propofol, causing his death?
Yes, he did.
What was your reaction to
that? I was disappointed because it's not possible. Propofol is so rapidly metabolized by the liver that very little propofol gets past the liver.
Now, there you go. And you know, you see Dr. Schafer on the stand. Basically, folks, he's calling out a study by Paul White and saying he was disappointed by it. But look at how he was hedging. His friend, the person he knows, is only about 25 feet away from him watching all of this.
And then there was a
he
counterattack.
He was concerned. Go ahead.
When Dr. Schafer is up there with the stand and the saline bag and doing all that demonstration, Dr. Murray allegedly turns to Dr. White, the defense expert, and says, can you believe that? What a bleep. We cannot repeat the word that Dr. Murray allegedly said to Dr. Paul White. So I find that fascinating. And I'd like to ask Alan Duke a little more about this agitation and anguish. You see it right there in his face when they pull out this IV stand and all of the props. That's from earlier, the crying, but the agitation you saw a second ago, I believe is from yesterday. Alan Duke, describe how agitated Dr. Murray allegedly or reportedly became when Dr. Schafer pulled out the props, similar to what I'm holding here.
It's not allegedly. He was visibly agitated, and in fact resulted in his lawyers calling for a sidebar, and it ended with one of those stipulations where both sides agreed on, in effect, that Dr. Murray was right, that the prosecution had actually represented the evidence in a way that wasn't found at the scene by putting that tab that hung it on the IV stand. Dr. Murray thought that wasn't right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
We'll be right back.